Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar, which is titled Your Questions Answered, Government Bidding Explained for Businesses Selling Goods. So it's a pleasure to have everyone in the session today. Let's jump in and get started. So my name is Danielle Andrews, and I am the Outreach Officer here at WeBC, and I am joining you today from the traditional unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan people. And I invite you right now to write in the chat whose traditional territories you are joining us from. Thank you so much to my colleague Netta Raz, who just popped into the chat a really helpful link where you can click on that and see which territory you're physically located on. So it's a great tool to have bookmarked as well. I'm also really excited to let you know that we are offering closed captioning today. We have American Sign Language interpretation. Thank you, Sarah, for being here. I hope that you can see her on the chat doing the signing, so it's accessible for everyone. To view the closed captioning on the webinar screen, you can click Live Transcript in the Zoom menu at the bottom of your screen, and then select Show Subtitles. And to view the closed captioning on a separate screen, please follow the link that is being posted in the chat box. And you can see Netta just posted that handy link, so you should be able to click that. And if you have any challenges with that, please direct your questions to Netta and she'll be able to assist you. So I'm really excited to also share with you about WeOffer as a not-for-profit organization. So we support businesses on their small business journey. We offer financing to get businesses started and operating capital to fuel business growth. And we offer more flexibility than traditional lenders because we take a holistic approach to providing loans based on your business viability and not based on formulas. This means that we provide loans to a diverse range of women-owned businesses and support you with integrated services, including complimentary training, mentoring, and business advising. From essential business skills development, such as training programs like this one today, to personalized business advice, we know the right questions to ask and the right resources to connect you with. And in our mentoring programs, you can connect with a network of women entrepreneurs and experts from around BC to support and inspire you. You can learn more about our services at our shiny new website, which is WeBC.ca. You can sign up for our e-blasts and e-newsletters to get notified when new programs become available. And we've got some great offerings coming up this spring, so I encourage you to subscribe. And look at that, Netta popped in the chat. Stay in the loop is that link in the chat. You can click on that and subscribe. So now on to today's webinar. Are you a woman-owned business selling goods? Are you interested in learning more, or do you have burning questions about selling your products to the government? Did you know that the Government of Canada actively looks for Canadian-owned businesses from which to purchase products? You might be surprised by how diverse their needs are. So even if you're a small business, they might just need that product that you offer. In this Q&A session, our panelists, Carolyn Arthur, Alexander Emesh, and Carter Bobbie from Procurement Assistance Canada will answer all your questions and provide tips on how the government bidding process works, how to find opportunities and practice bidding, and types of opportunities available. So I'm going to go through their introduction so you know the caliber of presenters that we have on the panel today. So I'm going to start with Carolyn Arthur. Carolyn is a senior inclusive business advisor at Procurement Assistance Canada. Carolyn enjoys educating and empowering clients and suppliers in the buying process. She is a committed partner in the development of procurement solutions that assist in closing socioeconomic gaps and eliminating systemic barriers facing First Nations, Inuit and Métis people, Black business owners, and other equity-seeking groups in the Canadian business community. Carolyn comes to PAC with 8 years of experience as a buyer for the Government of Canada. Carolyn is a leader in the Federal Black Employee Caucus and diversity networks with the Federal Black Employee Caucus BC chapter. So a warm welcome to Carolyn. You can use the clap emoji and make her feel welcome. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Great. And we also have Alexander Emesh. He has over 5 years of experience working in the federal government. He currently works as a policy analyst, where he helped potential suppliers navigate the federal procurement process, develop tools to find new opportunities, and understand more about federal government support. Alexander holds a Bachelor's of Science in Political Science at Arizona State University. He also holds a master's degree in global security, cybersecurity at the Center on the Future of War at Arizona State University. So clap emoji for Alexander. Thank you for being here. He's the one who popped in the chat and is going to be interacting with you there. And last but not least, we have Carter Bobbie. Carter has been working with the federal government for over a year, beginning with the Office of Procurement Ombudsman. And if you're wondering what that is, it's one of those, it's an office that is neutral and independent. It's a separate organization from the Government of Canada, and they help resolve contracting disputes between business and the federal government. And Carter holds a Bachelor's of Science in Political Science from Acadia University, and also a Master's of Global Business from the University of Victoria. So thank you to our 3 panelists for being here today. I will pass it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Danielle, for those great introductions. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. And as Danielle said, my name is Carolyn Arthur, and I'm Senior Inclusive Business Advisor with Procurement Assistance Canada. Today, I'm speaking to you from the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and these are people who have made their home here since time immemorial. So I want to welcome you all to the seminar with WeBC, which is focused on how to do business with the Government of Canada, and in particular, selling goods to the Government of Canada. And during this talk, we're going to speak a little bit about some of the common myths that's going around about how to do business with the government, or what type of business the Government of Canada gets involved in. So if you own or operate a business and are interested in selling goods to the Government of Canada, this seminar is going to provide you with some key information about how to do that and give some ideas for tools that you may need to get started. And the presentation itself, it's designed primarily for audiences who have a little exposure to the Government of Canada procurement process, and for those who have not yet bid on a government procurement in the past. However, when we get into the Q&A portion, if you are someone who has bid or has been poking around on the tender's website, we can answer those questions as well. So I want to tell you a little bit about Procurement Assistance Canada. Who are we, and why should you listen to what we have to say today? And as well, you might hear me say the acronym PAC or PAC, and that's literally Procurement Assistance Canada. So this group were created to support smaller and diverse businesses in the federal procurement ecosystem. So we are here to help you, to help small business owners navigate the tender process. Additionally, we talk to business owners to understand what stops you from submitting bids on our tenders or from engaging with government buyers. And we take that information to policymakers, and we try to make suggestions and make changes so that those tools and processes are better for you and easier for you to access and compete on contracts. So now that you know a little bit about PAC, let's dive into the real content of the presentation and talking about potential procurement opportunities. So each year, the government of Canada spends billions of dollars by awarding hundreds of thousands of contracts and making well over 1 million direct credit card purchases. So for you, that represents a huge potential market. So one of the myths is, why aren't smaller Canadian companies taking advantage of these opportunities? And one of the best parts of my job is that I actually get to engage with small business owners and hear their concerns. And what I've heard is that, the government isn't interested in what I have to sell, or the government only buys from big corporations, or, my company, it's too small to compete. Now, over the last few years, that total value of contracts awarded by the government of Canada amounted to an average of $23 billion. And smaller businesses have won over 50% of the total value of contracts awarded by PSPC. And that's to suppliers located here in Canada. And I want to let you know, I said PSPC is Public Services and Procurement Canada. That is the department that PAC is in. That's one department in Canada. We are legislated as the buyers for the government. However, all the other government departments out there have their own buyers and are making purchases for their own needs as well. So that's a whole nother aspect of the marketplace that is open to you. Now, you might be thinking still that, my business is too small to compete. So if you're talking about the small percentage of contracts for big ticket items, yeah, you're probably right there. There are only a handful of companies around the globe that can manufacture and sell a fighter aircraft or an ice-breaking science vessel that's going to be used in the Arctic. But the reality is, again, the majority of contracts awarded by the government of Canada are valued under $25,000. And for purchases under 10,000 and under 5,000, most of those are purchased using a credit card, and they're direct purchases from vendors. And what I'm saying direct there is that, we've engaged in an informal contract process rather than having to go through a public tender that lasts 40 days. Okay, so there are opportunities for smaller companies, and your companies are well positioned to take on these types of contracts and provide the government of Canada with the majority of goods that it needs every year. Now, you may also have thought, the government of Canada only does business with larger corporations. And again, as I've alluded to on the previous slide, we buy more from micro, small, and medium enterprises than we do from large companies. So speaking of innovation, that's a key ingredient in the mandate letters for this year and in years past. And innovators are usually smaller companies that are offering a wide range of products, and those are local products as well. So we have Innovative Solutions Canada, and that's a program that allows startups to sell new products directly to the government of Canada. In that program, you get your first sale, and the government gets to try cool new tech or other innovative products before anyone else. So again, that's an example of how a small company can get into doing business with the government of Canada. Another myth, the government doesn't buy what you sell. And I like to kind of reframe that one as, is there anything, any good that Canada doesn't buy? And, I mentioned the aircrafts and seafaring vessels, but we also buy food. We buy boxed lunches. We buy exercise equipment, plumbing supplies, you know, screws and nuts and bolts, bicycles, you know, big things like steel supports and concrete, like so many things that that the government does buy. So it's a very wide range, and there's a need for the types of goods that smaller businesses sell. So another myth that's out there is that the government buying, or procurement, as it's called when you're inside the government house, people think it's centralized, meaning it all happens in Ontario, in Ottawa, or Gatineau. And actually, the government is decentralized and diverse. It's coast to coast. There are offices for all the government departments, agencies, and crown corporations. So when you think of selling to the government of Canada, you should think of it as hundreds of potential clients with different needs in different geographic locations. So an example is the RCMP. Okay, they have detachments all across the country, from close to the border with the US all the way up into the Arctic and remote regions, from coast to coast to coast. And they're going to need a whole lot of equipment and material to keep those detachments going. So cleaning supplies, snow removal equipment, you know, their cars, the car parts, signs for their detachments, furnitures, bedding, shelves, you know, knives and forks, like the list goes on and on. And that is just one of the government organizations. So while we're happy to myth bust on some of these misconceptions, there's more to tell you about doing business with the government of Canada. So in this slide, we're talking about the supplier registration information system. So that's one of the portals that you will be accessing on the journey. But the important thing to remember about that one is you go there to register to get what's called a procurement business number. And what that is that's the number you need to get paid once you've got a contract. So just remember that if you're going to get involved in doing a tender or selling your goods, you need to get a procurement business number. Now, it's probably about a 30-minute process to kind of get through that online form. And we're not going to go into that today, but if you are getting to that stage, please feel free to get in touch with us, and we can walk you through that process or talk to you about it a little bit more. As well, there's something else to know is what we call low dollar value procurement, or those are contracts below $25,000 for goods. And those, they're usually awarded doing some kind of competitive process, but it is a much less formal process than going through a publicly tendered RFP process. And that was a lot of words that just came out of my mouth there, but the tender process is something we'll show you a little bit later. But the big difference is that tender process, you've got documents that are about 35 pages that you have to read through. There's a number of different requirements and certifications potentially. It takes work to go through that process. But for those goods that are valued under $25,000, a competition could be as simple as the buyer went and got 3 quotes from 3 different suppliers, did it a quick evaluation, or what is most likely is awarding on the lowest price and then issuing a contract from there. So another method for the smaller purchases as well is it could be just doing a search on an industry association or supplier list, or even using Google. For purchases under 10,000, you know, they might be making a phone call or going to your website and doing an online purchase. So again, that process in that market is multiple millions, billions of dollars. So you need to be proactive and make sure that those buyers know where to find you. You know, so having an online presence or having a relationship with those different buyers and ensuring that they know your business is out there. Just going to move on. So how do we find these tenders? I guess that's probably the best place to go here. So the slide you're looking at is a screenshot of the landing page for the website BuyAnd Sell.gc.ca/tenders. So this is the official location and repository for information on federal government tenders. It is a free source to suppliers. And this is a place you should go if you want to bid, or if you want to see what kind of tenders are out there. You want to look up information on the general clauses and conditions that are in those government contracts. You might want to do some research on previous tenders or buying. You want to reach out to myself or one of my colleagues. Information is on that website for you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that Public Services and Procurement Canada, we are the legislated buyers or authorized buyers for the government, but also other government departments and agencies use this website to post their requirements as well. And requirements, by that, I mean tenders. So again, lots of opportunities on this tender site. The site as well, it's easy to navigate, easier to search. So right now, if we can go to the website, we'll just take a look. And Carter, if you're okay, if you want to do a quick run around.
Perfect. No, thanks for setting this up, Carolyn. So exactly as Carolyn was introducing and as Alexander has put in the chat there, this is the main page for the Buy and Sell website. However, this active tab will be the most useful and most important for yourselves. Of course, you can get a little bit more into provide some filters by clicking on goods, but for today we'll click on active and we'll see what active tenders are currently available. So right now we can see that there's 797 active tenders available. And on the left here, there's a bunch of filters that you can use to further refine your search. So if you're looking for tenders that involve goods or services, or for goods, you'll want to click on this filter and you'll only see the tenders available for goods. As well, the location tab is incredibly useful and resourceful for smaller or medium-sized businesses. If you're not comfortable working nationally, you can work just within the province of British Columbia or wherever you're residing. And so that way you're working locally within your province for those federal opportunities. So making sure that you are looking at the opportunities that fit for your business are some of the most important. So for today, we're going to look up some food tenders. And sneakily, I've actually already loaded up some tenders here so that way my computer doesn't lag, because it always seems to do that. But here we're going to look at this this tender for box lunches. So right now we can see that we have 1 week and 1 hour until closing. You'll want to make sure, especially if it's your first time bidding on an opportunity, that you do leave yourself quite a bit of time to bid. So if you're comfortable, getting all the necessary information within 1 week, absolutely feel free to apply. As well, I'll direct your attention over to this notification center. So right here, if you click this little email function, anytime that there has been changes to this tender notice, you will get emailed right away. So if you're very interested in applying to this tender, but you want to stay up to date with information that gets posted on this tender, you'll want to make sure that you click this email notification button. Just put in your name and email, and you'll be off to the races. As well, you'll want to note down the GSIN codes. The GSIN codes relate to specific tenders. So if you're interested in this tender, and then as well more largely, you're interested in box lunches, you'll want to make sure that you follow this GSIN. And so you're probably wondering, how do I follow this GSIN? What I usually do is I copy the GSIN, I go back into the Buy and Sell website, I quite literally just paste it into the search bar. And again, my internet is, let's knock on wood that it loads. So we can see that there's just one tender. However, you can click on this email notification button here, and anytime a tender gets posted with this GSIN, you will be notified immediately, so that way you can apply to that opportunity. But we'll just go back to this tender notice because there's still a few other things on here that I want to draw your attention to. So over to the right, you'll see a list of interested suppliers. This is incredibly valuable for suppliers that are interested in the tender, but don't want to take on the responsibility of the rules and obligations of the tender. So you can apply to be an interested supplier, which is also potentially being a subcontractor. So once this tender is closed and has been awarded to a company, they will then receive the list of interested suppliers. And if you have put your name down on the list of interested suppliers, you could potentially be contacted to help work on this procurement. And that goes for almost all procurements that are listed that have this option available of list of interested suppliers. We'll just keep going down here. There's a short description that's included here that'll give a general overview of what the procurement is about or what the tender is about. You can click to show more. Sometimes they get pretty lengthy, so I don't want to take up too much of my screen here. But this is a great place to just get a quick snapshot of the tender, see if you're interested, see if you want to go further with it, and review the information there. As well, there's the contact information for this tender. So if you do have any questions about what's included within the short description, absolutely you should reach out to Lisa Young. They would be able to answer and assist you with any questions that you have about this specific tender. Each tender would have a different individual or contact associated. So you'll want to make sure that you're contacting the right person for each tender that you see. Lastly, we'll just move down to the bottom of the tender. And arguably one of the most important documents will be amendment number 000, the beginning part of this tender, which this file will have all the necessary information of the mandatory requirements, financial stipulations, evaluation criteria, and so forth. That will be within this 000 document, and it's the starting point for your procurement journey if you're interested in a tender. As well, a little tip that I can provide is it's typically the most viewed document on the tender. And then as well, you'll notice that there's two other amendments that are here. Those would be more than likely for questions and answers. So if you have a question about this tender and you reach out to Lisa, that question will then be recorded and that answer will be recorded. Both of the answer and the question will be sent back to you, and as well they will be posted on this site, so that way anyone who's interested in this tender can stay up to date with all the relevant information, and that there's no preferential treatment being provided. So any questions that are asked by any supplier that are interested in this tender will become public in a document succeeding, which is why it's incredibly important to make sure that you do have that email notification set. Because as soon as a new document gets posted, you will be notified immediately. That's all that I have to share about this, about the tender notices. However, just quickly, I just want to draw your attention to the contract history portion. On the Buy and Sell website, you can actually view data on all past contracts that have been awarded since 2004. It's quite a hefty document. However, it's very resourceful to see who has won past contracts, how much they were, when they occurred, and it can give you some more information about how and where you'd like to direct your business to within the federal government. Carolyn, I think that covers most of it. However, did you have anything else that you'd like to touch on before we go back to the presentation?
Actually, you know what? You just did everything that I would have done. So thank you for that. And to the audience out there, it really was just to give you a better idea of what that website looks like, how the information is organized, and a little bit about what you want to look at when you're interested in bidding. So again, all of that information is available to you. It is public. You do not need to register to access any of that information. So great. So we can go back to that presentation and just finish off. I think we have 3 or 4 more slides to go through there. So as well, just to kind of recap there, As I said, you don't need to register. Access to everything there is free. You can do your searches. So Carter talked about using the GSIN search. So that's a focused search on a particular commodity. You can also just type in words to, if you wanted to do like screws or nuts and bolts or, steel, you can also do that as well as you're going through there. And as Carter touched on as well, is looking at procurement data for historical contracts. Really good information there. And that'll give you a sense of what is the government buying, when do they buy it, and who can I talk to, what companies have had the contracts previously, etc. And as well, as Carter mentioned, it's subscribing to get those email notifications. The Buy and Sell website is a huge repository of information. So again, to manage your time, sign up for those notifications so that the website tells you when to go look at something rather than you checking there every day. And I want to take some time to talk about another program. It is the Innovation for Defense Excellence and Security Program through the Department of National Defense and the Canadian Armed Forces. And it's an innovation program aimed to transform defense and security challenges being faced by the various partners in the D&D CAF ecosystem, CAF being the Canadian Armed Forces. So that would include like the Air Force, Navy, Army, Special Forces, etc. And the program itself is about getting innovative solutions to improve Canada's defense capabilities. So participating as a supplier, participating in the IDEAS program gives many benefits, from access to world-class subject matter experts to generous funding opportunities. So each element is unique in how it's designed to advance science and technology and deliver support to the innovators within the program. So one is Innovation Networks, and that provides up to $1.5 million in funding to encourage collaboration and build a network of expertise that advances R&D in support of Canada's current and future defense and security innovation challenges. There's also competitive projects, and that's funding up to $1.2 million in phased development funding to build and progress technology solutions. So promising solutions can be selected within that program and advance from demo and testing stages. There's also contests, and contests are about pitting the best solutions against each other to solve complex issues for cash prizes. So funding is contest specific. So an example, there was a recent contest winner. I don't know why I'm having trouble saying that today, but there was a total prize pool of $3.5 million that went to the winner there. As well, in the 4 rounds of the contest, there are different cash prizes to help the innovators along as they're going through that contest. Another pillar is sandboxes, and this is an opportunity for investors to test and demonstrate their solutions in the presence of military experts and users. So the sandboxes, they don't provide funding directly, but will partially reimburse up to 50% of eligible travel expenses related to the sandbox. And then there's the test drive, and that's a final stage of the IDEAS innovator journey. So IDEAS acquires the solution, and then D&D and CAF can assess the readiness of the product via evaluation and testing. So test drive is specifically for the most advanced and promising technologies, and you'll receive operational feedback from military experts and personnel. And so again, make sure you subscribe to the email distribution list to get the latest challenges emailed to you directly. And the website has the updates there as new challenges are up, and it also contains the information on background information on the program, as well as future opportunities there. Great, and so there's many tools available to support you in doing business with the Government of Canada. So should you require any clarification about the information provided, please feel free to contact Procurement Assistance Canada. We'll be more than happy to assist you. As well, on this slide here, these are the names of a number of different seminars that are available to suppliers. Registration for that is posted on the Buy and Sell website, or you can contact regional offices. And we also do those seminars in support with other associations and organizations. So lots of opportunities for you to get additional information about Procurement Assistance Canada and the selling your goods to the federal government. As well, just as I said, PAC is here to help businesses like your own. So we have a national info line. You can call there during business hours. There's also regional offices, so coast to coast to coast. Our office is located here for BC and the Yukon, which is our territory. We have an office in Victoria and we have an office in Vancouver. So I believe one of my associates will drop the page for that contact information into the chat as well. So again, I think in the beginning I said that Procurement Assistance Canada is here to support you, the small business owner. So that's kind of the end of our presentation. Let's start the Q&A portion. So myself, Carter, Alex, we're here to help. We're happy to hear your questions. Ask me anything. So Alexander, I'm not sure if any written questions have come in while we've been doing the presentation.
We just received one now, so we haven't had any questions at the moment, and I really do encourage everyone. This is a great opportunity to not only ask two policy analyst questions, but Carolyn is a former procurement officer who works with us. So if you do have any questions, you have a wealth of experience with Carolyn and myself and Carter supporting. So definitely ask them in chat, or go ahead and start taking yourself off mute and asking questions. We'll be happy to answer them. Right now, there's only one question I see in chat, and the question is there online bidding submit, or do we have to write the bid? So they're asking about electronic procurement.
Okay, so we're kind of, there's different phases, I guess, of the process that are electronic. So in terms of submitting your bid, it will say on the tender document that the bid is submitted through ePost Connect. So that is on all of the goods procurements and service procurements. However, I believe for construction and marine procurement, not always is it electronic bid submission. Sometimes you do need to submit a hard copy bid. Things to keep in mind there is the tender document itself tells you exactly how to submit that bid. And there's a few kind of steps in that process. Was that enough information for you?
And I just wanted to add a little bit of further context to that as well, because we are in the slow and gradual transition towards Canada Buys, which is going to be an update from Buy and Sell. I don't want anyone here to worry about that right now, but that would actually ease up and have a little more of electronic processes for bidding and procurement. So we'll keep you in the loop when that is transitioned over. For right now, I often tell buyers that you have to put yourself back maybe in the early 2000s on how bidding would work. So as Carolyn said, that there's a PDF within the tender notice, that amendment 000, which Carter said, it's going to give you all the instructions on how to submit a bid. I always say, get yourself a big cup of coffee and a highlighter and go through these instructions to make sure that you're reading all the mandatories, the deadlines, making sure you sign, and reviewing the document thoroughly. That way that you can bid successfully.
Great, thank you for that, Alexander. And I just actually see another question in the chat about who are other buyers besides PAC. So I'm going to drop a link in there while I talk about that. So there are buyers in every single government department, agency, and Crown Corporation. There's, I believe, just over 150 different departments. There could be a little bit more by now. So that page that I dropped is just, it's a listing on the public website. And I do see that Alexander has dropped another link for what's called the GEDS, or the Government Electronic Directory. And that link gets into locating people, getting phone numbers, contact information. You could look up departmental structures as well on that tool. When you are looking at that tool, it's kind of keeping in mind, well, how do I tell who is a buyer and who isn't? So you will see words like supply officer, you will see supply specialist, you will see procurement officer. The other thing you want to think of is who actually has the authority to spend the money, or who is the person who is working on the projects where at the end there's going to be a contract or a need. So that would be project managers, that would be managers, directors. Those are the people who are kind of getting those projects ready to be posted on the Buy and Sell website. Actually, and I just thought of another one is material management, and that's material spelt with an EL, and asset management. So those are positions where they manage the goods. They're the ones who are cataloging the goods, and so they would have some links to who is buying the goods as well. So I'm just seeing here the proactive disclosure link that was posted in the chat. That's a very useful place to go and look up information for who are doing the buying.
I'm just going to add a little bit more to that too. So when you're working and you're trying to sell your goods to the federal government, it's always good to develop a good amount of business intelligence about who's buying what from whom and how much. And our websites are open and transparent when it comes to federal procurement, of course, not national security related stuff, but for federal procurement. And you can use contract history, you can use proactive disclosure, you can even go on the awarded tab in the Buy and Sell website to view what past contracts looked like and who was awarded from them. And you can do a lot of stuff with this information because it's a resource and tool at your disposal. You can reach out to companies that won awards and look into subcontracting with them or partnering with them for future. You can also just review the tender notice itself and kind of get an idea of what it was asking for in the past. And that could be useful if you don't see your particular good being purchased right now, but it was purchased last year. Maybe you can find trends using contract history or awarded contracts. It may be you will find that government seems to procure a good on a particular cycle. And that could help you provide some business intelligence on when to be aware and when to reach out to different client departments.
Thank you for that. Just looking in the chat, I see we got a couple new questions there. So got what are the different types of tenders for goods. So there's a few. The most common would be request for proposal, or RFP. You will also see request for standing offer and request for supply arrangement. So the RFP is around, one contract, here we want to buy this particular quantity or amount at this one time. That's what most of those would look like. A request for supply arrangement is that you're on an approved supplier list at the end of that process. So it's an agreement that you as the supplier are on standby and ready to provide your good when the government asks for it. So those agreements would be in place for generally around 2 years, maybe 3 years. So looking at those, you would have to kind of look at your own business and see if you are capable of being on standby and ready to deliver. Because when you are in that agreement, that's your obligation. Requests for standing offer is similar in the sense that you're on the qualified supplier list. There may be 3 businesses on that list, sometimes up to 5. And there's a rotational process where, again, the government would request, hey, we need this many goods at this date. So those are the most common that you will see. Another thing to be aware of is what's called an ACAN, or an Advanced Contract Award Notice. And those are put out when the government thinks there may be only one supplier out there with this one thing. So they would post an ACAN, which is essentially yelling out to the industry to say, hey, we're considering buying this. If you have a product that can do the same thing, please tell us who you are. And responding to those, it immediately becomes a tender. So when I say immediate, in a few days, they will then become a public tender. And then so you would be able to bid on that opportunity. Other things you'll see as well as a letter of information or request for information, RFI or LOI. Those are put out there when we're in an information gathering stage. So it could be that there's a procurement in mind, or there is a need to develop a project. Government isn't quite sure which direction to go. So again, it's reaching out to industry to provide feedback and information to help guide creation of the solicitation or tender that would be put out sometime in the future. Are there any other questions in the chat? I believe there was 1 or 2.
Yes, Carolyn. We had a question about evaluation strategies that the federal government uses. I think there's a misconception that we're always, evaluating based on meeting mandatories and having the most competitive price. Are you able to evaluate or elaborate a bit on other ways bids are evaluated? Just kind of myth bust that concept.
Yeah, definitely. We can talk about that a little bit. So in a broader kind of scope is that lowest price is confused or conflated with best value. And the concept of best value is how the federal government does procurement for the most part. Then best value, there's many different factors that go into best value. One of them, which is price. Low bid itself is done in construction procurement, and that's in simpler projects that aren't so complex. Another way to think about it is you might have a mandatory requirement plus a price portion. And there would be calculations as to say maybe it's 10% is awarded to the price calculation, and 90% would be around the technical qualities of this particular good. I think most common, you'll see a 60-40 split between price, 60 being the technical portion and 40 being price. I've seen 70-30 split out there as well. The mandatory portion is certifications or resumes, could be number of years experience, etc. So again, all of these factors are going to be clearly stated on that tender document. So it's as a supplier or as a bidder, you want to make sure that you understand what that evaluation criteria is. And do you have those documents if it's a mandatory? The mandatory, if all of those are checked off, like those are yes, no, is that certification here? Is that resume here? Then your bid becomes compliant and you move to the next stage of evaluation, which would be then looking at the different point rated criteria, which would be the technical portion plus the price portion. And again, they're different and unique to each tender. So you'll want to be clear on that. Any other questions that I can answer for you today?
Maybe we could also myth bust a little bit about security clearances. Often suppliers are under the impression that they need a security clearance for all tenders. So I can just kind of answer this too, if that's a question in anyone's mind. Completely depends on the tender. It'll make sense why there's a security clearance required for that specific tender. It is not, you're not going to see it on every tender, so don't get too worried about that. If you do see it on a tender that there's a security clearance requirement, let's just say you're selling ammunition or you're selling computers or something to the federal government and there's a security clearance requirement, the recommendation we give you is that contract security program will be your resource for that type of information. Process wise, you're still going to be turning in that bid on time. You can reach out to the contracting authority in parallel and ask for sponsorship for that security clearance that you're needing. That would work parallel to your bid. If you are awarded the contract authority would continue the process for your security clearance. Once it's approved, the contract will start going on. So that is just I just want to myth bust that security clearances are not required for every single tender notice. You will see them when it is required. There'll be instructions on what to do. You're still going to make sure if you feel you're competitive and you meet the mandatories, that you turn your bid on time regardless of that element.
Great, thank you for adding that, Alexander. And I wanted to kind of bring up another solution. If there are another organization, Shared Services Canada has started a program called Scale Up, and that's around software procurement. So I don't know if there's anyone in the audience who is in the software business, but they're innovating there in the sense of they're shortening the time from tender to award. And sometimes that can be as quick as a 2-week period. And that program is for contracts up to $238,000. So if you Google Scale Up, you'll find some information on that one. And that's done in partnership with an organization called Tech Nation Canada. And actually, I see another question. Does PAC procure for province and municipalities? So at this point, we do not. However, or actually, sorry, for provinces, yes, they do have access to standing offers through the SOSA application, and that's accessed from the Buy and Sell website. So yes, provincial authorities are able to access some of the federal government procurement documents. So that kind of opens up the marketplace for you as well. Okay, I'm just looking at the time. We're about 5 minutes out. So any burning questions, we can help.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I think that was very interactive, and thank you everyone who contributed questions to make this session interactive. And of course, there will be a recording provided as well as follow-up contact details. So I think it'd be great if we leave it there and we can wrap up today's session.
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you. Those were some really great questions. And this has been a great presentation for me as well. Kept me active and on my toes, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, love it. Well, thanks again to our 3 panelists, Alexander, Carter, and Carolyn. You did a great job responding and brainstorming questions that weren't even asked. Sometimes it's hard to know what questions to ask if you haven't been down that road. So it's good to get our wheels turning around what questions will be coming up. So I'd like to share with you a couple upcoming sessions that WeBC will be offering. So on March 8th, which is also International Women's Day, make sure to look on your calendar to see what events are happening on International Women's Day to really celebrate and acknowledge that special day. We are hosting our business loans information session if you're looking for financing for your business. We've got a 3-part webinar series on how to export. And even if you have a service and not a product, you can still export. And that's a common misconception. We also have a session on April 7th about supplier diversity, which is all around being certified as a woman-owned business. And you can also check out full other range of events on our website. So encourage you to check that out. So now I'm going to turn the attention to our Zoom platform. Netta, if you can please launch our feedback poll. There it is, thank you. It's really important that we get your feedback because we are constantly improving and looking for ways to make these sessions more valuable. So please take a moment and fill out the feedback form here. And just a big thank you for our panelists. You know, we did 2 sessions. We tried something new this time. We split it up into doing services and doing goods because it is a little bit different. So let us know if you like that. Let us know if you like the Q&A portion and if you have any other ideas of how to improve. So thanks again, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Happy March 1st. And we'll leave it there. Have a great day, everyone. And also thank you, Sarah, for doing a great job interpreting. Great to see you.